everybody, and welcome to my channel and my esteemed guest, Karen Della Carriere. How are you doing?
Great.
Thank
Hi,
you for joining me.
everybody. Hi, everyone in the chat. Hello.
If you guys are watching this, we should be streaming on Karen's channel and on mine, so you can watch on both of our channels if you want to. You can open up another tab and we both get the views for that. So welcome. Karen wanted to talk to me about the protest that we just held at St. Hill outside the IES event. So I thought we'd get together and we'd do a live stream and talk about what just happened. Because it was a bit of a crazy week. What did you see, Karen, from your end? Because I
First
know
of
I was
all,
live streaming everything.
congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
salute you. You pulled off something really, really historical. And you did everything. you got the demonstrators, you put together the rules, you walked the, what is it, 1 mile?
It was
And
yeah,
you micromanaged it all. Salutations to apostate Alex.
Thank you.
Let me so I congratulate you. Now, Alex, was there a memorable moment or two when you look back at the whole 3 days? Was there a memorable moment or two that you have memorialized in your head?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing, firstly, the turnout on the first day, I knew how many people we were expecting because of registrations online and stuff, but I didn't know, whether those people would actually show up on the day, right? So firstly, just the number of people that we had show up was kind of mind-blowing for me. And then there was this moment when on the third day as well, when they were opening the new Qual building at St. Hill, and they totally weren't expecting us, and OSA suddenly went overboard on their aggression more than they had for the last 3 days, and they totally weren't expecting us. And the fact that the opening was happening outside and they could see us from the road and they could see us and hear us screaming and shouting our protest chants, just seeing the kind of reaction on Janet Laveau's face and everybody else that was there, that they just kind of didn't really know what to do or how to handle us. That definitely stood out for sure. I mean, they should have expected us. We announced our plans, weeks in advance, and they still, for some reason, didn't realize that we would be down there, interrupting their event, I suppose. So yeah, that stood out, just how unprepared they were in comparison to how prepared we were.
This is strange because day after day after day, it was promoted. They knew this was not an ambush protest. This was a broadcasted protest. And here they have all these people full time. They have an OSA UK, I don't know how many staff are United Kingdom OSA staff. There's a little bundle of them in there under Janet Laveau, no? They have
I mean, probably not many now, but they used to have a lot more.
They have security guards. They pump themselves off on how secure, what an island and sanctuary orgs are. Come in, and here is your your peaceful geographical area of safety. But they lose it. They can lose it and behave like, oh, I don't want to give derogatory words, but it was, that third day was just, yes, they just couldn't predict that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were being peaceful in our protest. We were shouting, things like compliments and having compassion and all of that we've talked about before. But I think it's for me, it just showed OSA and Scientology made themselves look bad, right? The fact that they were so aggressive, pushing us into the road and calling the police and telling them that we were harassing them, which is just not true. And the police could see it with their own eyes. They were there to help us exercise our right to peacefully protest. And that's exactly what we were doing. The people who were being aggressive were the Scientologists. And I think you could tell as well just how much of a major flap it was, because David Miscavige was meant to open the Qual building. I've heard from an inside source that he was definitely there and he was about to open it. And then we showed up with our protest. And at the last minute, threw Erin Banks on the stage to open it in his place. And I think that just shows how unprepared they were. You know, they're outdoors, 100 feet or so away from the road where we were standing on public land. And there were no barriers or blockades or anything to drown us out. Like there was nothing to stop that event being interrupted or disrupted at all, which they could have done stuff. They could have put mitigating, things in place to prevent the protest being heard by the gathering of Scientologists there, but they just simply didn't, and it was just unprepared on their part. And the fact that they then became so aggressive at trying to shut us down shows that the instruction came from above, and David Miscavige himself wanted us to stop the protest. And because of his aggression, that was handed down through the ranks to the chief of security and the people who were dealing with us on the ground outside.
Well spoken, Alex. You know, I've been at the end of the stick of David Miscavige, and I will tell you, his fury, his mantra in the last 20, 30 years is the SBs are out to get me. And all you incompetent robots around me do nothing to protect me. And I'm telling you, he would have had a fit. Who knows what punishments? Oh, I almost feel a little sorry for the staff that are going to get the whip.
Yeah. Well, on Friday, it was clear, there was a moment where Janet Laveau was really, really angry. And so for those of you watching, Janet Laveau is currently the managing director of Scientology here in the UK. She's OSA, and she's the big boss. And she was at the gates on the first day of our protest. And the private security Scientology had hired actually had to ask her to leave, to take a minute, because she was getting so angry. And I found out later through the security guard that the reason was because Dave Miscavige was on the phone to her while she was standing at the gate, instructors saying, why haven't you shut this down? You need to shut this protest down. And because he was being angry at her, she was then angry about us. But there was nothing that she could have done because we were peacefully protesting on public land. And actually, we would have caused less disruption to the event if they hadn't have done certain things. They put potted plants on the public footpath and all this sort of stuff, which meant where we were standing was a little bit more disruptive than where we wanted to be. And we only had to stand there because they had put those things in place to prevent us being where they didn't want us. So their own mistakes made it worse for them. And David Miscavige was personally very angry. And, I just find that funny. Janet Laveau was told by her own security to go take a minute. But yeah, it definitely would have been considered a flap on their part.
I want to say a quick hello to Daniel Chamberlain and Jeff.
Yes.
Your dear friend Jeff, PTS for life. Hello. Thank you for dropping in. Hi.
Danielle said here,
hi.
Watch them build some more brick walls near the stables. That wouldn't surprise me. And Jeff's here. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Matt's here. He's great. Auntie Harju, a big follower of mine. Karen, you look beautiful as always.
Oh, that's so sweet. Now, you were London Org staff. And you were out on the streets and you were selling books and you had your share of experiencing. People have to walk in our shoes to absolutely get it. You have to get it by being in it. And you were staff. Here's a question. What was absolutely predictable about OSA that you had certainty would happen in those 3 days?
Yeah, I knew that sorry, I was adjusting my chair. I knew that they would be aggressive, and I was actually surprised that they weren't as aggressive as they were on the third day throughout the whole weekend. They were a lot tamer on the Friday and Saturday, and I think that's just down to numbers. They don't have as many people as they have historically to deal with protesters. So all of the OSA staff are inside the event on the property, dealing with David Miscavige and all the public and all of this, running the show. They didn't have the staff they used to have to stand on the gates and, disrupt our protests. So they left that to the private security. That was a bit of a shocker for me, but we saw it on the Sunday. And like I said, I knew that they would be playing antics and doing their normal tricks and stuff that you see year in, year out. And you know, they were calling the police throughout the weekend and saying they're yelling abuse and harassment at us, you know, they're harassing us, they're being unlawful. And the police were there on site and really helping us and saying, no, look, they're not doing anything of the kind. They're being peaceful, they're complimenting people, and they're, you know, they've obviously got a message of compassion. And so that was something that really didn't surprise me, because I knew they were going to do it. And it was just great to have the support of the police, I suppose. But lots of stuff like that, you know, everywhere that I went, I had a security detail follow me as because they considered me a threat. You know, we had a bit of cam back action. There was a guy dressed as a ninja that was following Jeff around with a camera the whole day on a Sunday. Those sorts of things were totally expected, and it really didn't surprise me that they played those games.
You know, the mentality inside the Scientology cult is them versus us. There's no thought of unification. We are all human beings, and all human beings deserve respect. The them is to be pulverized, battered, fought against. And the them, in the olden days, Alex, the them were psychiatrists and media and authors of critical books, TV stations that aired secrets of Scientology. It was them. But in the last 10, 15 years, the them has become former Scientologists, some who worked. I slaved for them for almost 20 years, for $10, $15 a week for 60 cents. The them are the Mike Rinders and the Leo who gave $5 million to the cult. The them now became long duration loyal, not psychiatrists, not them to go after and make hate pages and try to make into a little dot and try to depopularize is former Scientologists. Got a comment?
It makes it worse for themselves, right? And this is a thing that I find kind of hilarious with Scientology, because like the PR, they care so much about their PR image. That's the most important thing to them, is their reputation. And, you know, we are the best thing for humanity. So they will guard that with every fiber of their being. And so, for example, someone attacking Scientology or saying Scientology is a cult or, you know, whatever, they're the enemy. And we'll, you know, Scientology say we will do everything we can to destroy those people. But it loses the mission, because that actually makes you look worse, because you're seen publicly attacking people rather than doing good things for the world, which is what religions are supposed to do. So they're shooting themselves in the foot, because they are going on the offense rather than the defense. And that's not the right way to go about it. And it just makes themselves look worse.
Well, this might be a good point to put in the clip I sent you on Ursula.
Yes.
Ursula Caberta. Because you see, you're saying how they treasure their reputation, but look how they act in public.
This is what I mean. It's like, what reputation? They don't have a reputation left to protect, and because of these things like this, right?
Right.
Let me get
Ursula Caberta has been one of the most incredible. She's German. She worked for the government. Okay, watch this and I'll shut up. Ursula arrives at Tampa Airport.
Yes, I fast forwarded the first 30 seconds because it's just to get to the bit that's noteworthy. But here we go.
And when Ursula's plane arrived, we knew there'd be some sort of trouble, but never imagined the scene that was about to erupt.
Nazi criminal, go back to Germany! Nazi criminal, go back to Germany! You're not welcome! Go back to
We don't want you here. We like freedom of religion. Hi! We like freedom of religion.
You are banned!
Come on, Mark, let's go.
So that was kind of like a flash mob protest that they held, right?
Just compare Apostate Alex, peaceful protest at St. Hill, with atypical. I wanted to send Alex more clips of how Scientology carry on. And they really believe they are shriveling and diminishing and making into a dot an opponent by screaming and carrying on like lunatics. That was an Oser Sea Org mob trying to scream and yell and carry on against Ursula, one of the major critics in Germany. Ursula was someone that everyone would turn to. There was no Aftermath Foundation. So if there was anyone in Europe that wanted to escape, they went to Ursula, and she rescued several people. So they hated her. And when she arrived at Tampa, that's how they carried on. Just look at Alex's policy of peaceful protest, and look at the way the mob of Scientology carry on. Just compare those two. Can you do a comparison in your mind there? I'm telling the audience.
Yeah, I mean, our protests, the things we were shouting were "Pip pip cheerio, Scientology got to go." You know, we were saying "Stop disconnection." We were saying, you know, mostly positive things like, you know, "You look great. We love your dress," or, you know, "We hope you have a good time. Enjoy the event. Keep your credit card safe." You know, we were saying, we were coming at it with a message of compassion. We weren't yelling abuse at individuals like Scientology are doing here in this video. And that just shows the difference in how they operate versus us. And they claim that we're a hate group. Well, there's nothing hateful in what we were saying at all. We were saying we want to help you and you look great. We hope you have a great time at the event. If you want to leave, there's a community here that will help you. There's nothing hateful about that at all. But their actions are nothing but hateful.
You know, somebody just asked why I finally left Scientology, and I'm going to get back to. I just want to acknowledge that I read that. I read the question in the chat. But while we're on this subject, I want to tell you that in the 1970s, there was a newspaper called the Clearwater Sun. They were kind of a cousin, if I may say so, to what was called St. Petersburg Times. St. Petersburg Times renamed themselves as Tampa Bay Times. That's the newspaper of Clearwater, St. Petersburg, and Tampa. And Scientology decided they were going to wipe out the Clearwater Sun. And the reason they did that is when Scientology purchased the Fort Harrison, instead of being just honest and straight and said, we want to acquire that, they did this huge deception of United Churches of Florida, an entity which didn't even exist, even though it was 1970s and Google wasn't around. You could find out, and there was no such thing as United Churches of Florida. So United Churches of Florida bought, and because of all this secrecy and deception, the Clearwater Sun said, what is this? What is this? And there was all kind of speculation. Maybe this was a mafia gambling casino that wanted to. there was just, when there's mystery, people will dub in, they will manufacture. And Scientology thought, we are going to destroy the Clearwater Sun. Alex, would you show some little snapshots of Scientology demonstrating against the Clearwater Sun?
Yeah, so this is a clip of the newspaper about the march, the parade that Scientology put on outside the Clearwater Sun head office, right? And I think this
Yes, that's
picture
the
as
head
well
office.
shows it better.
They dressed as Nazis with swastikas. Can you go back to the first one you just showed, Alex? Yeah, all of those are Sea Org members. I think the guy, I remember him, he was a chief of security, the guy right in the middle, up front. Swastikas, they paraded outside the Clearwater Sun. This is just a newspaper reporting factual data on Clearwater. And they just paraded in Nazi costumes. Now compare that, do a little mental comparison to Alex's peaceful protest outside St. Hill and another Scientology protest on
Mm,
the venom that they espouse, that they, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's lots of pictures from this
These
protest,
are
you
all
know,
the
and
Sea Org members.
yeah, here we go. So
These
they,
are Sea Org members dressed
yeah,
in not as if they're Nazis. And then
yeah,
what they're
goose
telling the
stepping outside
Clearwater
the
Sun,
offices.
what they're telling the Clearwater Sun is, you're a Nazi. You're posting anti-Scientology facts, therefore you are Nazi. Can
Mm.
you believe the mindset? Mhm.
And this is the thing with Scientology is it's an extremist belief system, and when in Scientology you're told that suppressive people, critics, and former members are enemies of the church, they're literally the worst of humanity, and so they will resort to extreme tactics to try and discredit and silence and intimidate these people. But this is the thing: this sort of action, dressing up like this, is not that's not churchly behavior. That's not the sort of behavior you'd expect of, you know, a welcoming, open group of people that want to help and heal each other. You know, it just shows that they're vicious and they're on the attack because the policy is attack, never defend, right?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Um, so there is nothing benign or kind. You were saying, Alex, that they care so much about their image, but they act ferocious and vicious. And there's some kind of mental, there's an ethics blind spot there. The viciousness that they portray seems to communicate as, we are so big and we are so fierce that we can squash you like a bug.
Mm.
So the message is, don't mess with us because we will destroy you.
Yeah,
How, Alex, how does that give them a good repute? How is
exactly.
that
That's the
good?
thing. It makes no sense. It's irrational. You know, Scientology is all about, you know, the analytical mind, thinking rationally, you know, getting rid of your reactive mind, which is the irrational part of your brain. And so you would imagine that their actions therefore would be rational, but they're not. You know, if someone does something that could bring the church into disrepute, you know, the instant reaction is, you know, how do we jump on this, restrict the flow of information? How do we control this so that it doesn't affect the image of the church? You know, we can't have any people doing anything illegal or anything that, you know, if it gets out or it leaks, that might make the church look bad. So all they care about is their image before the people. You know, victims of crimes, Danny Masterson, you know, they didn't care about the people who were his victims. They cared about making sure that it didn't get out and it didn't become a press story because that could damage the church. And this is an example of that. Like they're trying to put their image before anything else. But they shoot themselves in the foot, because then when it comes out that they're suppressing the victims and, you know, just, you know, trying to contain it rather than offer support, then it makes the church look worse than if they had just thought of the victims first. It's the same with this
Well,
protest. It just doesn't make sense because it makes them look bad, but they just didn't think rationally.
you know, the one thing is, they do not change.
Hmm.
They do not learn lessons. The last thing, when I worked in the church, when I was Sea Org and when I was at OSA, there was laughter at something called reverse management. Reverse management was a coined term where ex-Scientologists who are not even, they've been kicked out, they're dirt, they're not even, and they are telling us what to do. They're trying to manage and give us advice. That was called reverse management, and it was scoffed. Get lost. You're not even a staff member. You're below copyright C. you're down, you're scum. And if you think you are wiser than us, go take a hike. So reverse, so never mind if they think it's reverse management. The point is, you would think that they could learn some lessons from what the internet fallout is. They don't. Alex, they don't. One thing about Scientology is it's completely predictable. Completely predictable. And they cannot change. Although, would you agree with me that Miscavige has changed L. Ron Hubbard policy and laws when
Oh,
convenient?
yeah, of course. And this is the thing is, the policy is that you cannot alter or change Aaron Hubbard tech. You can't alter his words. You can't change it. But that's what Dave Miscavige has done. But irrespective of that, it's kind of irrelevant because whether it was Miscavige or LRH, like the tech is ultimately harmful and it says fair game. It says to do this. It dictates how people should behave and react to certain situations. And it's almost irrelevant who wrote it or whether it's been changed because the thing itself cannot be interpreted, or you can't apply Scientology how it works for you and apply it differently to someone else. You can't take little bit, it's you take it, you're with us or against us, die in the attempt. And that is an extremist belief system. It's a binary thinking, it's a totalitarian belief system, which is harmful, and there's no room for minutiae or like gray area or interpretation. And that's one of the reasons it becomes so damaging.
Alex, somebody in questions wanted me to tell the little tale of why I finally left. So can I just take a little tributary?
Yeah, this is One Love.
There, yeah,
Question for
yeah.
Karen. I've never heard Karen
Yeah.
explain why she ultimately left Scientology. Thanks to both of you SPs for sharing.
Okay. Two bad things happened to me. And that started the seeds in my head. This is not what I signed up for. One was Scientology wants money, cash, above everything, cash. Give us your money, give us your hard-earned cash. And I was CSing high-end things at the Flagland base. CSing
CS
means
is Cape Supervisor. Yeah.
supervising counseling. And Scientology devised a plot to round up everybody in the satellite, smaller, lower level orgs. And if they had money, send them to Flag for case cracking, meaning there's always a percentage that say, you know what, I didn't get any gain. I got nothing out of this. There's always a percentage. You never know that because they never broadcast that, but at least 30% of those that pay in cash say nothing happened. I don't feel better. I still go home and beat my wife. You didn't handle that. So all of these no case gain, they're called, landed for me to use wisdom and expertise to crack their case, meaning make them get gain. And some of these were in horrible shape. They were suicidal. I would open a folder and a guy would be saying, I'm going up to the 10th floor balcony and I'm going to hurl myself into the cement. And what do you think the Clearwater Sun would say about that? I'm going to kill myself on the property. I open it and this is what's under my nose for me to handle. And it would be my neck if he killed himself. Nobody died. Nobody killed themselves on my watch. But it was a nightmare. And I was trying to get these people, many of them belonged in a facility, a sanatorium, a safe space, not under Scientology whip and policy to shove them and pigeonhole them into categories. Long story short, I was rebellious. I didn't feel, and Scientology was looking, he gave $50,000. What are you talking about that you can't handle it? Do you believe L. Ron Hubbard technology does not work? What's the matter with you, Karen Delic? Solve the case. I couldn't even sleep. I would run all the way from the Fort Harrison over the causeway to Clearwater Beach every night, just to exhaust myself so I could sleep, because I was worried of suicides and stuff. So they removed me and made me run 12 hours a day around a pole. Alex, do you have a quick picture of running around it? Do you have a picture of
I don't, but
running
I can
around a
get one up
pole?
while you're
Okay.
talking.
Okay. So this is supposed to be spiritual. It's supposed to be spiritual. You run and run and run and run, and you run around a pole. And I was ordered to do it 12 hours a day. Nobody can run 12 hours, even marathon runners. You're allowed to take short little breaks, but you're kicked out back on the track by the supervisor. And this was,
This is the pole at the int base, I believe, right? At Gold.
yes, yes.
So they have a tree, and you just have to run around this tree for hours on end until you have some sort of spiritual awakening or cognition, right? Is the idea.
Well, let me tell you the theory behind that. I read all the advices. Hubbard said that way back in the intergalactic days of, in the cosmos days of different bodies, he was chasing a criminal. And Hubbard said he chased the criminal and chased the criminal and chased the criminal. And one day he caught up with the criminal. And the criminal was sane. He lost all his criminality. So Hubbard decided that if you run and run and run and run beyond exhaustion, you will lose your bad intentions and bad impulses and become sane. So, because Hubbard decided that in intergalactic space, billions and trillions of years ago, he chased a criminal, I had to then run 12 hours a day around a pole. It came down to Hubbard did that, so I have to do this. It was rough. It was rough. It was rough. I times I just didn't even want to. It was incredibly. My ankles were swollen. My knees had puffed up. It was agony. And if you can't run anymore, you walk. But it was torture. So that really shook me up. And then I had another, I don't want to make a whole long thing. I had another punitive incident where I was imprisoned for 6 months at the hierarchy for saying something. And I had painful, hard labor to do. And I would be hauled out of bed at 2 a.m. and put on the meter for interrogatory set checks. It was just beyond, it was a madhouse. And it was the beginning of the end. So when I hooked up with Marty and Mike and had long conversations with them, I was already done. So that's a summary. And I've never been able to sort of get over how badly they punished me for working for them like a slave. Mm-hmm.
Someone actually just asked here, Antihaji, Karen, do you feel you've overcome it, or can one never really overcome such a thing?
I have a beautiful life. I really do. My animals were a huge therapy for me. I do animal rescue. I'm plugged into all the people that get my donations, Humane Society, RSPCA, SPCA, PETA. I am plugged in. And the more I help animals, the more joyful I am, the more happy I am. No, I am very, this decade might be the happiest decade of my life. So when I'm in a show like this, I'll get into that, but I don't live thinking about this. This is history. I am now in time, and I meet new and wonderful people. Look at Alex. He comes out of the blue sky, and we are dear friends. We talk almost daily. You step out of the darkness, but you have no idea of what you're going to now get for stepping out. So have I overcome it? Yes.
You mentioned there briefly a bit of history, and I think I actually wanted to bring this up. Now, the connection isn't so great because I was having some issues when I was streaming on the protest. But when I was outside the Qual building opening, I actually walked past your old house in St. Hill, and I gave you a little shout out. So please excuse the connection, but I wanted to just play this because you used to live just over the road from St. Hill, and this was us at the protest. Block our view. So this is St. Hill Green, and I believe Karen de la Carrière lived in one of these, number 6 St. Hill Green.
Yes, that's exactly.
So Karen, if you're watching, this is your old house.
Yes.
The connection's really bad, but that's
And this
your old
entrance
house.
here is the stables entrance, which is actually there's a restriction on
And then we go on with the protests and so on. But yeah, excuse the bad connection. But I just wanted to bring that up because you know St. Hill very, very well, where we were protesting, and the point where we were shoved into the road was literally outside your old house.
You know, Alex, thank you. I was so riveted because I walked that walk that the protesters did. I would sometimes walk all the way down to Sainsbury's on Main Street, East Grinstead High Street, it's called. Main Street in America, High Street in England. And there were no Ubers in those days. So to have to carry your Sainsbury's groceries 1 mile was, I would take taxis, and the taxi drivers.
And it's not flat either. It's a hilly road, right? It's uphill. You know, it's a long walk.
Alex, I tell you that I walked that walk that the protesters. So I was just riveted. Yes, I lived at St. Hill Green. Now I want to say, I wanted Scientology. I believed in it because I wanted it to be true. I didn't join to leave in 3 weeks and start doing YouTube video. I stayed in it 40 years. 40 years. People now think, what was the matter with you, Karen? Did you have a brain aneurysm? Maybe I did. But 20 years almost as staff, and then the rest of the 20 years was a little bit of blackmail involved. They had my child in the Sea Org. And I knew if I came out or said anything, that would be the end of any connection. And in any case, they got my son anyway. That's a whole different story. Alex, back to your remarkable demonstration. Historical.
I think that links in though, because what you're saying about the fear of speaking out, right? That's how Scientology operates. They want to scare people, intimidate them into silence, right? And that's one of the reasons a protest was so important and needed, because we were saying, look, you cannot silence us. We are a peaceful protest. We are within the law. We are going to make our voices heard, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. And that's what would have irritated them even more, because they lead with this fear intimidation tactic, and they did that with you, with your son, you know, the whole fair game that you've experienced over the years, and they were trying to do that with us as well. And that's what's so great about being able to protest, is however hard they tried, they wouldn't stop us from standing there at the side of the road, making our voice heard, you know. And that's what I think makes it so empowering, because there are so many people in Scientology and people who are out of Scientology but are too scared to speak or have family in or whatever, that they don't have that voice. They don't have the ability to stand out there and shout for what they believe in and raise concerns. So that's why it was so important to do the protest, is to kind of be that voice for the people that couldn't have that voice or don't have that voice.
Mm. Mm. Yes. Yes. Alex, I want to just ask you, what was the biggest lesson you learned in these 3 days? You know, experience is experience, but it's beneficial to go forward in time learning. Not that you don't have to learn anything negative. What did you learn going forward in time that you would take away from these 3 days?
I think there were two things. Number one, I was surprised at how much support there is for locally among the
Mm.
local community for our protest.
Mm.
I thought that the majority of people in East Grinstead were kind of accepting that Scientology is there and kind of going, whatever it is, what it is, and that we're fine with it. But I was surprised that there were so many people coming up to me going, thank you for protesting, because we can't do this, because we have to kind of have a semi-decent relationship with Scientology, because they're our neighbors, but we don't like it. We don't want them here. So we can't protest, but you're protesting on our behalf. So that's what I think I learned from that angle. And it was also good to learn how slow and behind the Office of Special Affairs are. You know, it took them several days to catch up to what we were doing. We were able to go to Sunderland, or me and Jeff, a couple of days later, which should have never been allowed to happen. You know, they are so behind and so slow.
Mm.
It just shows the real state of Scientology today, and that was a big learn. You know, next year that will indicates where their priorities are, and we'll know the lay of the lay of the land, and what our plans are next year will be bigger and better, and they'll struggle even more to deal with the flap that it causes, because there'll be more of us.
Mm. They may change the venue altogether in fear of you and
Who
your crowd.
knows?
They may make it an IAS event in Clearwater.
Hmm?
Anyway, so thank you for that, Alex. What do you know to be absolutely true about the cult that is unlikely to change no matter what peaceful protests are done wherever in the world?
This is like what I was saying earlier. You know, it's a totalitarian belief system. It's authoritarian, and it's control based and control led, and that will never change. You know, there's no matter how many things you change about Scientology or the way it operates, the belief system in itself is harmful and damaging because it is extremist, and that's never going to change, because it cannot change, because that's what it is. It's fundamental to its very nature.
Yeah. Well spoken. Well spoken. Here's the question. If you could create one law that the cult has to comply with, one law, what would that be?
I mean, look, there are already plenty of laws that Scientology have to comply with that they're not complying with, right? You know, they are breaking laws left, right, and center. You know, they are trafficking children. They are causing families distress and tearing families apart. They are creating huge mental health issues for people and financial distress and hardship. There are lots of laws that they are already breaking that they should be obeying. For me, it's ultimately, you know, compassion, you know, empathy, love, these things that don't exist in Scientology should exist, because when you actually start caring about people, then suddenly it's really hard to be nasty and vindictive and controlling, which is what Scientology is. And it's completely lacking in those three key things: kindness, love, and empathy. So if I could make that a law, I'd make that a law. You have to be kind, loving, and empathetic.
You know, there are two words becoming synonymous with Scientology: abuse, and attack. Not, there's such an absence of love in Scientology. This is just, there's such an absence of kindness. It's a hierarchy of domination. And that's not really an adjective connected with ecclesiastical religion.
Yeah.
They scream in the law courts. The First Amendment gives a broad benefits once you can use the First Amendment. Oh, geez, there's just huge benefits on First Amendment. But how religious is this kind of conduct? It's anything but religious.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
But no.
irrational.
Hmm.
Yeah, PTS for life, Jeff here, there's nothing rational in Scientology,
Yeah.
It's true. If it was
Yeah.
rational, it would, and they've been screaming for years about trying to get religious status and recognition as a religion, and yet they behave like this. The guy that we call the ninja, the Osa ninja, that was following Jeff around most of the day on Sunday, he was dressed up with a balaclava and you could only just see his eyes, walking around filming us, harassing and intimidating Jeff. That is not religious behavior that I would expect any religious organization to do. And again, they're shooting themselves in the foot, because when you look at what he was wearing, there was a Greenfields logo on his jacket, which is the school here in the UK that Scientology kids go to. They weren't concealing their identity. Is that the sort of behavior you'd expect of someone who works at a school, to follow someone around in his spare time when he's not looking after kids? He follows people around with a camera and harasses and intimidates them. Is that the sort of behavior you'd expect of someone in that position? No. And that's what Scientology do. They go against what they should be doing. If they were a real religion and they were a real empathetic, kind group that cared about humanity, they wouldn't do half the stuff they're doing. And the reason they're not doing it is because they don't, because that's not what they are.
Well spoken, Alex. Very well spoken. This is why if Scientology had even a little kindness, even a little bit of understanding of somebody who'd served them many years and left, well, never mind CO, never mind stuff. If they just could understand viewpoints other than we have to survive no matter what. The end justifies the means.
The thing is, they never will. Like, that's the thing. Like, yes, it makes sense. If they could just do this, if they could just care about you, but Scientology will never do that, because it's fundamental to its nature to be hateful and vindictive and harmful. Yes, there are lots of simple solutions that would make it a lot easier and a lot better, but it will never happen because the thing itself is harmful.
Yes. Yeah. What I agree, Alex. I often get asked so many times, if David Miscavige dies or something happens and he is no longer there, will Scientology present itself in a more gentle, friendly way? That's a common question I get. Because of my YouTube channel, I get so much email, and your answer precisely answered that. It's in the DNA and policies of the cult to destroy critics, to destroy anyone who, and not only to harm them, but to do it with humiliation and degradation. One of the things that Scientology does to this day, and Alex, you got traumatized by that. I got 6 months of imprisonment. You were locked in a room and you were in lockdown. This is part of where the cult uses, they behave like federal agents. They believe they can take you into custody. In fact, they have something called blow drill. Blow drill is a coined 2-word phrase for pursuing you after you've left, by sending out posses of people as if they're police officers or federal, to retrieve you back. The paranoid of you leaving and knowing some of their secrets overrides their common sense. They believe they can be federal agents or police officers, whatever, to kidnap you, hurl you in a van, and drag you back. And they've succeeded many, many times in doing that. Alex was locked in a room. Were you ordered to write up?
Yeah, I had to do my OW writer. There was one time as well that I blew, and they, you know, my boss Charlie Wackley came to my house to try and recover me, and he said, "You can't, you know, you got to come back. You got to come back." And you know, this happens at every level of Scientology in every city in the world. You know, this is their behavior,
Yes.
and linking it back to the protest, you know, it just shows how they go on the attack, and they were very vicious on the Sunday, and I'm kind of bracing myself for the attack, you know, in the physical world afterwards. You know, I've had PIs following me, and there's a few other things that are going on. They tried to hack into my website 20,000 times in the last couple of months. Like, they are on the attack, but this is only just the beginning. You know, I'm sure it's going to get worse and worse, but it's just making themselves look bad. You know, you should respect that people have different opinions, different beliefs. I have no problem with the people going to the event to listen to David Miscavige speak. Great, enjoy yourself, have a good evening. Like, hope you have fun. Like, I don't wish any ill will on these people that are going to the event. But what I do want them to know is that if they do decide to leave, they should be free to make that choice. And there's a community here to help them if they make that choice. The thing is, they don't know that they have that choice, or if they do know, they're not free to make that choice because Scientology is controlling and manipulative.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Now, the one thing that they do not change is this lockdown, which actually it's like taking someone hostage. It's completely illegal. It's illegal. The FBI have tons of reports of people kidnapped and in lockdown. People now have no fear of going to their local, they go to their councilman, they go to their senator, they write to their congressman. People are reporting to government level the abysmal conduct of the cult and why they carry on like this. But they don't stop. And this can be just to backtrack, will it change if David Miscavige dies and vanishes? Will anything change? They can't. They cannot change. And David Miscavige has made it his business to just about kill off anyone who could replace him that Miscavige sensed could be a rival or a competitor. He has whipped them. He has beaten them. He has locked them up in that infamous SP hole. He has gaslighted them to the point of making them dysfunctional. And that has always trickled down layer by layer. He was beating, so it became commonplace at the Flag Land Base. I've known registrars to slap a public, slap them in a violent punch for not coughing up money. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and that's the thing that we were kind of concerned about. Of they've been known to do this before with protesters, to physically manhandle them, because that's how people are treated in Scientology, and that's seen as okay. You can't get away with doing that in the real world. And they started to try and do that to us on the Sunday. Luckily, the police were there, and you know, I think they were maybe restricted from doing that in their minds because they didn't want to be seen to be doing anything wrong. But you know, they shoved Stephen Jones into the road in front of moving traffic. You know, they were aggressive, and that's the way people are treated in Scientology. They didn't think twice about it because they thought this is just normal behavior. It's not normal in the real world. You can't behave like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we go through some of these questions, Karen? We've got a couple
One
starred.
last thing before we get, and then we'll
Sure.
just get to the question. One last thing. You're talking about how you're like you feel the retaliation. If there's one thing Scientology cannot do, it's be still. Just be still. Hold your horses. Just be there. Scientology is tit for tat. You did you take they cannot. They and they do it pretty fast. They don't think it through. They don't think, well, what would be the consequences of that? They're not thinking 3 chess moves ahead. They are completely, if you're running by a little stream and there's a rattlesnake, the rattlesnake doesn't think that's just a jogger. He doesn't even see me. He's running. And the rattlesnake thinks he's coming near. Wham! Strike him with venom. I like to use that analogy because Scientology uses so much venom and hatred in their attacks. So what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way is, you have power, Alex. You have the power of the internet. They can do something and you can do a broadcast within minutes. And thousands of people can tune in and listen. They used to come to my home. I live halfway between Celebrity Center and Big Blue in Hollywood. And they used to come regularly to my gate, pretending that they wanted an interview as journalists. And I used to resent that because I didn't go to people's personal homes. They were coming to my home. So then Jeffrey and I learned what to do. We put it up on the internet within minutes. Everybody knows that I do bird rescue, that I rescue baby birds falling out. I rescue all kinds of ravens, crows, pigeons, all kinds of bluebirds, robin redbreast. People bring me birds. So, of course, Osa knew that. So this girl comes to the gate and she said, I want to see Karen on bird rescue. And my cars were parked in my long driveway, and she knew I was home. And she said, Jeffrey said, Karen's not available. And she said, I need to tell Karen things are different. Things are better now. I want to tell Karen how much better she needs to know. This was trying to suddenly use affinity and communication mid their hate attacks. But we put it up on the web within minutes. And later I heard OSA was shaking their heads. They said, we attack and within 10 minutes, it's up on the web. So I just want to tell you and not go on and on. Alex, you have power. You have power of your voice. They attack you, boom, internet,
Well,
boom,
the same
YouTube,
with the
boom,
protest.
Twitter.
We were live streaming the protest. My stream of our protest has more views than attendees at the IS event we were protesting outside. Right?
Hey.
But
Very
this is what I
good,
find funny.
very good.
I was walking around with a camera. We had 1,500 people at any one time watching it. Total views by the end of the live stream was more than the capacity of the tent they were holding their event in. Walking around going, look, yes, there are 50 people with us here, 46 in person on the property, but there are 1,500 people watching live. We are the voice of many, and there's nothing you can do about it because we're live streaming. Anybody could go on YouTube and watch this right now and see the protest. And you could tell they don't really know what to do with that, because anything that they do to react will be instantly, not even 10 minutes later, instantly on YouTube.
But I do want to tell you that they could get a senior command order to knock off fair game on you. If they're getting thousands of views, they wake up to the fact that, wait a moment, we're providing him good footage for his channel. We are the ones providing the footage. That's how they woke up with that movie, My
And funding
Scientology.
it.
Yeah.
and funding
Yeah.
it right now. Scientology and Scientologists are the biggest advertisers on my channel. You know, Stephen Ridley, who's a pianist here in the UK, he's a Scientology celebrity at London Org. He advertises on my channel. So you watch my videos and it comes up with an advert with this guy saying, you know, I've got this online masterclass to learn how to play piano. He's a Scientologist. He's paying money for his ads to appear on my videos. It's the same with Scientology. If a Scientology ad ever comes up on YouTube, they've paid for that video to be there ahead of whatever video it is you're watching. So Scientology are not only providing content, they're funding the channels because they're advertising on them. So that gives us reason to do it more. They're pretty stupid on a lot of occasions.
Well, I just want to tell you, Alex, you have power. You have power. You've got to get it. You have your voice, and you can get them. When I started putting up all the videos of their harassment, it stopped. Never came back. Oh, I did this huge security system with cameras there, because you see, we can record everything. We can record it for YouTube. And we can and within seconds, when they saw my security system and the footage, Jeffrey didn't have to run out with a video camera. We've got cameras here, there, and we record the voice and we record the full image. So if you want them to knock off or lessen fair game, use your voice, Alex. There is power in that voice. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you, Karen. Let's get through some of these questions here. Champagne Hand question: in that Clearwater Sun protest, if a Sea Org member had been resistant to wearing those uniforms or refused to participate, what would have happened to them? Punishment, right?
Oh, yeah. You rarely would get someone in the bubble. You consider it an honor that you have been chosen to demonstrate against the bad Clearwater Sun. But I think you're asking in a thought experiment. You would be decked. When you refuse, it's considered mutiny. And decked means you're taken off your post and you're made to do hard manual labor, very tedious manual labor. Not something nice like painting. Painting can be fun, painting the exterior, but gritty. You'd be given a toothbrush and you have to clean toilets with a toothbrush, or you have to white glove a dumpster that's smelly with God knows what, and now you have to white glove it. So punishments always have a bit of a knife in it to humiliate you. You don't refuse when you're given a job. Your CO contract says you will obey and do whatever they ask you to. If you read that CO contract carefully, they've revised it, but anyway, that's the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark the Dorset SP, thank you so much for the super chat. Alex, November 5th will now be remembered for another reason in the Church of Scientology. Loved being with you on the gates that day. Please say hello to Karen. Have always wanted to say hi to her and send her love and wishes. Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us on the protest.
Mark, the Dorset Dorset. I lived in England for many, many years. So anyway, hi to you, Mark. Mm-hmm.
Mark was great. He came and joined us on one of the days. It was lovely. And it's so true. Cool. You know, remember the 5th of November, Gunpowder Treason and Plot is a very important day in British culture. And,
yes.
And now it's going to go down in Scientology history because of our protests on that day. So let's make it a 5th of November. They'll never forget, right? Anna Scheid, great question. Alex, I loved watching your protest. Little Davy must have had a nuclear meltdown. I hope those on the receiving end of his rage can contact the Aftermath Foundation to get out. Karen, having been at the upper echelons of Scientology for so long, having worked with Dave Miscavige and L. Ron Hubbard, how do you expect David Miscavige would have reacted? Not on the day, because we know how he reacted on the day, but after the event, when he's gone back to Flag or gone back to SMP or wherever he is now, what's going on in the world of David Miscavige now in light of the protest?
if there's one thing David Miscavige believes in, it's revenge. Those who he feels let him down on purpose, deliberately, with the evil in their heart. He literally, there's no such thing as making a mistake in Scientology. There are no errors in Scientology. Hurts or transgressions are malicious conduct because the person is considered to have evil purposes. And the reason people are interrogated on and on and on and on is to flush that evil Scientology believes lurks in your soul. So David Miscavige would be on a rampage. This is the first time he presented himself and came out after the pandemic. This is the first appearance. And the fact that it was sabotaged by a humble group of people. Oh, I can't even imagine his rage and tantrums. He'll give himself a stroke. He already has asthma. He's had asthma all his life since a child. He puffs and smokes 2 to 3 packs a day. He drinks raw alcohol every night. And then he gets this kind of welcome, and his performance is blocked because of this Alex, boss mad Alex. Oh my God. He would have had literally an explosion. Nuclear explosion is good. He would have screamed and ranted and raved, and then he would want interrogatories on who said this and that and who didn't. And these people will be cleaning toilets with a toothbrush. When David Miscavige wants revenge, he often does a pronouncement for a lifetime. So any St. Hill staff that he feels contributed to this would be sentenced to the galley for life, not for 3 weeks, not for 3 months. They would clean pots and pans. There are people in the Los Angeles galley who've been sent there, like Barbara Tompkins. She's the mother of Jenna Miscavige and Sterling. Barbara Tompkins' first husband, Foster, has been sent to the galley for life. He's been there 30 years. The punishment is for a lifetime. When an auditor is removed, the certs are removed permanently and forever. So I think that you'll slowly learn how drastic David Miscavige's revenge was. Okay.
And hopefully that is what it takes. You know, quite often Mike Rinder, Mark and Claire Headley was saying the other day that quite often when someone who works for the church in the Sea organization is just going about their business and haven't done anything wrong, and then suddenly they're deemed responsible for something like a protest going on outside that had nothing to do with them. They just happened to be in the firing line, and they were banished to, you know, go to work in the galley for life or whatever. That's like that punishment, unreasonable, unjustified punishment, is what a lot of people, it gives them the kind of confidence to be like, no, this is all rubbish. Like, I've done nothing wrong here, and yet I'm being punished. And that, even though it's a horrible punishment, that's sometimes just what people need to burst that bubble and push them over the edge and say, I'm not doing this and I'm out. And so it's horrible that people get punished, but sometimes that's what they need to be. They need to be given that harsh treatment or be threatened with it for them to realize how absurd the whole thing is and get out before they're subject to that harsh treatment or punishment. You know, if they are told they're banished to the RPF, no, I'm out. You know, I'm not going to the RPF. You know, that's what a lot of people have said in leaving. So hopefully that's the effect that we had with the protest. You know, is getting people to realize that if they do decide to leave, they're not alone. There's a community of people here to support and help them. And us SPs are not big, horrible, nasty people. We care and love and help each other as much as we possibly can, because that's what we are. We're a community. We're not a cult, right?
Yes, back in the day when you were out, you were thrown into the, everybody cut themselves off from you. Everyone you ever knew would treat you like a leper. And then the cult had so many people living under a bridge and being homeless. They started giving $500 if you left. See, if you left the Sea Org. But even then, sometimes they didn't have that, and they would try and give you tapes and CDs. Say, we don't have the 500 in FP financial. And then the Aftermath Foundation was born. And the Aftermath Foundation, you just Google it, it'll take you there with ease, will stabilize you. If you qualify, you're leaving Scientology, whether public or Sea Org or staff, they will get you a job. If you were Sea Org, you have nothing. You have no bank account, no driver's license, no resume to get a job, nothing. The Aftermath Foundation will completely handle every square inch of what you need so that you can move forward with a life. Thank you for
Absolutely.
promoting it, Alex. Good job.
There we go. I think that's, you know, it's a really integral support network that's there that people need to know about, and it's globally, wherever you are in the world, the Aftermath will help. But Karen, thank you so much for
Yes.
joining me. This has been fantastic. Any final thoughts before we round off here?
I do want to announce that Alex and I are musing and plotting a weekly show. Not just Alex and me, Beverly. So we're planning that so that you would have a time every week and know you could join Alex and me. However, Alex leads a video life and sometimes he's off on festivals. So we would suspend it when Alex couldn't do it. But otherwise, we want a weekly show. Right.
Absolutely.
So we want to let you know that. Yeah. That's it.
Absolutely. And we'll keep everyone up to date with our plans and what we're doing. And guys, if you're watching this, thank you so much for joining us. Give us a thumbs up and a like, you know, comment down below. If you want to support financially, there's PayPal, there's Buy Me a Coffee, all that sort of stuff. But the best way of supporting is engagement. You know, the more you engage with the video, the more YouTube pushes it out to more people. And therefore, the more people can be helped by seeing this stuff. So give us a like, leave a comment, and thank you so much. And we'll see you guys on the next one.